worry. In Taiwan, the law often feel distant, technical, and intimidated. Most people encounter legal issue not with confidence, but with fear. We believe that this gap was not only unnecessary, but harmful to democracy. So we started to rewrite the law and judgment in plain language, clear, direct, and immediate way. What began as a small online project slowly grew into a newsroom, a podcast, and a public-facing legal education platform. So over the year, we have communicated with a wide range of public interest parties, from criminal justice to human rights and to labor rights, gender equality, digital privacy, disinformation, election, and also the climate change. We explain the new bills, the core decision, and the national debates. Our goal is never just to simplify the law. We are to make the public feel that legal knowledge belongs to them, not just belong to lawyer or official. Our early year taught us an important lesson. Information alone is not enough. If people do not trust the messenger, or if the message does not connect emotionally, the communication will not lead. So we evolved from being explainer of the law to partner in public conversation. We learn to use storytelling, data, real life case, and format like podcasts and short videos to reach people where they are. We learn to speak with empathy, not just expertise. We learn that public engagement is not one way. It requires listening. So as the Taiwanese media environment change, we also adjust. We move from broad public outreach to a more sustainable model built on community and membership. We shift from chasing click to build long-term trust. We invest most in transparency, fact-checking, and editorial standard. So ensure we become not only a legal education platform, but a public interest media organization. Okay, so the challenge. So how's our work on the challenge of working on climate change? Climate communication is different from most legal topics we handle. This uh, this topic this topic is that the science is complex, the timelines are long, and the political tensions are real. Working with the climate group show us three difficulties. The issue feels distant because people know it is important, but people don't feel it in their daily life. And the policy language is technical, from energy transition to carbon pricing. The terminology creates the barrier. And on the other hand, the movement is emotionally heavy. Activities often carry grief, urgency, and frustration. However, the public may feel tired or overwhelming. So when we collaborate on climate issue, we face the challenge of translating not only the policy, but also emotion behind the work. But this challenge also opens new possibilities. We learn to use human story to make climate real. We learn to show how climate policy connect to fairness, connect to job, connect to health, and connect to democracy. And we learn that the legal system is not separate from climate action. It shapes everything from the land use to industrial transformation, and also to environmental justice. So the plan law, in closing, the plan law movement began with one belief. People deserve to understand the rule that shape their life. So today we take a broad issue, especially climate change. Our mission remains the same. We want to make complex public issue understandable, relatable, and shareable. We want citizens to feel empowered, not intimidated. And we hope to work with all of you to keep building a more informed and engaged society. Thank you. And so the next one can we need the next one we need Jasmine to share how's your organization work and what is your organization do, what's the objective your organization to achieve.
Okay, so my organization is Mom Loves Taiwan Association. It was founded originally in 2013. Um, it, Originally, it was a group of mothers who were very concerned about nuclear issues in the local communities and how to impact the local people. But now it gradually grew and broadened the issue into energy, renewables, and local communities resilient, and also youth empowerment, which is the projects that we have the most. And so we not only do research and policy advocacy, but we also collaborated with different local independent filmmakers or independent local communities, and also like the Plain Law movement, this social media, to try to empower the youth to have their capacity building on storytelling, visual storytelling, or narratives building on climate issues, transforming the environmental complicated issues into more relatable stories. So we grew from watching over nuclear safety to watching over the whole future of our next generations. And what we have observed in the new communication landscape is that with the growing extreme weathers, there's also like more unstable weathers, there's also more unstable trust in the public. So there's a rising tide of misinformation or disinformation in Taiwan about renewable energies, especially after a typhoon has struck and damaging the solar panels by the coast. So I just changed my microphone. I hope it still sounds good.
Good. Everything's fine.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, so there's this growing trend of misinformation and distrust in the energy transition, because as we see like more and more extreme weathers impacting the local communities, and also maybe the process of this energy transition is not always very just and have many communications with the local community. And that leads to politics entering the dialogues of these communications on climate change issues, especially on whether we lack electricity or not, or that on nuclear energy and on solar panels, because recently there's also some rumors about solar panels having toxic waters in the water. So there's a lot of this kind of non-fact-checked local rumors going around, and it has been linked to some public people in the political sphere that make it expand more and more to the local people's minds that, oh, these renewable energies are not safe or not trustable, or that we need to use other ways to have these energy transition. So this entanglement with the misinformation and geopolitics, and the growing trend of the rise of self-media, that leads to these kind of information being very fastly spreaded in our lives, not only in Taiwan but also around the world. But this rise of social media also gives us an opportunity to empower ourselves and empower the next generation to make new narratives, translating the local issues into the public eyes. So that's one of our projects, is about Climate Communication Academy. We bring these students to the local community in Miaoli and also in the mountains, an indigenous tribe, which is a tribe called Zouzu. And we follow these hunter Basuya and also other important figures in their village to try to track down the stories of how they are resilient to the climate change, and how indigenous way of living with nature can bring what like can reconnect us with the land, and we let these students get in touch with the soil and the water. We make them go into the forest and try to navigate the vocabularies of those indigenous people, so that in the end of the 4 days camp, they would turn these stories that they heard into visual reports that they could tell to the public people. And these reports are also guided by expert mentors who will give them feedback on whether the things that they wrote or the pictures that they capture are relatable or resonant to the public. So this gives them like a capacity building on how to effectively turn these local stories into relatable stories. So this is what one of our main project is doing. And yeah, I'll share it for now.
So now it's Sean's time. So can Sean introduce what you do and what's your organization's objective to MS8?
On. Oh, it's on. Okay, thank you. Oh well, thank you, Jasmine, for all that. And there's a lot of. I hope there's more exchange between us, and also on how these things on the ground right now at COP30 in Brazil can continue to develop. My name is Sean. I know I'm founder of Happiness. So the thing that I'm really hoping to do is sort of broaden this concept of climate more on science communications. And to understand what science communication is, I think a good science communicator focus on what I call like the AEIOU. So awareness, emotional resonance, interest, opinion forming, and also understanding. How do we raise these AEIOUs, all of these, through through our own words, through stories, through narratives, and also experiences that really would help people see themselves in the movement. And if I may open with, because Jasmine has said a lot already, but to focus, to hone in on that, to give a real example, in Brazil, at the time of COP30 is happening in Berlin. So on Saturday, there was a big protest, parade happening. All the streets, many streets around this venue was closed down. There were hundreds and thousands of people walking on the streets. Many of them are guardians of this land. They're indigenous peoples of this land. As you can imagine, at the short time, seeing a flood of people from all around the world coming to a city and talking about climate, something that you're very close with, growing up within the Amazon forest. And one thing that really struck me was there was a little girl. I think she was indigenous ascent, and she has a sign that she held up and said, "I came back from the future and we won." And that is very interesting. I don't know if she speaks English or Portuguese, but the language was in English. And to me, that sign was a powerful statement, and also shows that how people together actually driving change, not just within, outside of what we call a conference like that, this scale, is equally, if not more important, to put the pressure and also to bring people together, as Guizhi has said about community building. And that to me is very important, because many people are interested in things, and because that their friends are also interested in. So if we could create spaces and events or activities that bring people out together, so they can invite their friends, their families to a protest, a community gardening, a cooking class, or anything. I think that's more important, because in places and events that we feel more comfortable, actually it's easier for people to get the information and wanted to talk about it. So to me, it's not only just about the fact, it's also about creating that physical space where people can come together and curate that situation, that circumstances, that people are more willing to be flexible and also open-minded to very complex problems that we don't often think that much when we are so sometimes overwhelmed by our own daily lives. And I think ultimately it's about falling in love in the future. So as you know, I host a podcast and with scientists and now on the ground with many scientists from all around the world and also communities who grew up in Brazil. And I think the importance of asking the right question is an essential one, because I often ended with a question about, when you're older now, looking back as a grandparent, what would you want your grandchildren to thank you for? And I think that's a very powerful question, because it shifts the way that how you think and your responsibility in your actions, and also just to think more long term on how your work is going to impact not only yourself but something bigger than you. And so that's what I'm focusing on. I wanted to create more of these conversations on that. So to not only increase the science capital, so how people care about science in their life at this time when we feel like media and science communication can be so bifurcated, especially after post-pandemic. So there's a lot of work to do. I'm sure on the ground these conversations are happening, and we do hope that to create more of these spaces and to work together as one.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank
Okay,
you.
okay. Since Jasmine and Sean has already shared what they are doing and what they are work for, so how about Roy?
Yes.
How about Roy? So how's your advocacy? What's your strategy
Yes.
of communication? Do you think the communication is very important for our work, and why?
I think it's very, very, very important thing in our work. But it's very hard to talk about a serious topic because the people on the social media prefer fun, easy content, and that's normal. People like very, very fun information when they just look their cell phone. So if we are too serious, I think people will not pay attention for so long. So when using social media, we must make the topic fun, interesting, so people unexpectedly find the low relevant. People will always watch a content they already like, but the real challenge is explain important thing that haven't thought about yet. That's why I think that being fun and interesting is a key to getting them to watch. For long-term content like podcasts, I think you need to sound more human and real. This means sharing more about your personal experience and yourself to create a closer connection with audience. For example, for in our podcast, we not only to share about law information, knowledge, but also we will share our life. We will share how we are holiday, what we are doing.
We put the daily life into
Yes.
our content.
Yes, but I think that is more important because people like to hearing something like this. More than information, more than knowledge. So I think that's the most important thing.
So if we want to communicate the climate change, we want to convey the environmental issue. The most important thing is not the knowledge of the
Not
climate,
only knowledge.
not only the knowledge, but also how our daily life, how our life like connect with this knowledge.
Yes, I think the most important thing. Like if you want to talking about maybe like, okay, for example, for climate change, you want to talking about recycle. Maybe it's not to teach everybody how to recycle. That is boring.
That's boring.
you must share like you like drink some
for plastic bottle.
Yes, you have shared this life experience. I think that's the more important thing.
So how we do recycle in our daily life?
Yes. So
are you a recycle man?
I don't think so. I don't think so. But yeah,
you're bad.
Yeah, because I drink a lot of plastic water. So I think I need to solve this problem.
But you use your can, right? You have the reusable bottle.
Yeah, I reuse bottle like this.
Okay.
So I think talking about this topic, I think on social media, make serious topic fun and then to grab attention. For long-term contact, like podcast being real is for a personal to build lasting trust. I think that's the most important thing in our job.
Okay. So I have another question for Jasmine. So for Jasmine, based based on your experience while communicating with the topics of climate change and a energy transition, what research has been done? For example, do you explore the background of the audience or the connection of the issue with the community? Have you found an effective formula to make people related to the topics?
What? Hello.
Jasmine?
Okay. Yeah.
Hello?
Hello.
So yeah, many of our audiences are target. So I think that the research that we need to do before we start like a campaign or the communication is that we need to research on our audience. We need to set an audience that we want to focus on and then target them, see what their interests and values are, like what Roy just said about like people love fun and relatable stuff. So, but there's also many nuances on which generations love what things. So we have different projects based on different age groups. For example, there's a project called Little Solar Panel Engineer. So this project is aimed towards the children, and we wanted them to know more about solar panels and renewable energy. So there's like a booth, and we let those children attend. And when they attend, they could rebuild the infrastructure of the solar panel themselves. Of course, it's not real; it's just like a model. But when they wear those helmets and the vests, and they have those tools on their hands, they would have their hands-on experience on like what does solar panel really mean in front of them. And when those teachers are guiding them to install those solar panels, they will have some knowledge and information on what this renewable energy is about. And the second project that is related to like climate communication is about the local adaptation and resilient building. So we did our research on the target audience, which is a local community in Miaoli. It's called Yuanli. And this local community is very prone to floodings and extreme weathers. So they have their vulnerable spots. But also we wanted to respond to their needs on facing these climate change issues. So we gathered the town officials and the educators in the towns and also the local communities to map out what are the potential risks and what are some potential risk management protocols that we could take before something extreme happens. So we did our research on these local audiences first and then tried to see what they need in order to build a resilient community. Because there are many nuances in different contexts of the community. So we need to avoid generalizing different places, but everything is very contextualized. So this is the research that we have to done to research on the local context. Context is everything. And the third project is the project that we collaborated with Plan Love Movement, which we train young people to get them to know about the tools, how to use social media, reels, how to create reels, how to create podcasts, and how to create short-term contents and posts to translate these environmental issues into fun, inspiring ones. So we train them into writing proposals, writing how these contents are formed, and also how to produce them. And before we train them, we have to do research on what are the current young people, what are the platforms they are on. And so we need to do like So in summary, we need to have research on the audience, target audience, and also the local context. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jasmine, I have a further question for you. How was the idea arise for the little solar panel and engineer project? Because for in general, when we talking about the general communication with the general public on climate change, we often the audience was supposed to be the general public, especially for the grown up, but the audience of this project you choose for the
Child.
for children.
Children.
So how did this idea arise?
Actually, I'm not the founder. Like when it was created, I was not part of the project, but I believe that intergenerational knowledge and passing down our knowledge to different generations and seeing what they value, what their interests are, different generations, they have their own way of seeing the world, and we also need to uh, pass down our way of seeing the world to them, especially on tackling climate change and extreme weather issues. We need to let them know that these renewable energies are very essential to building resilient in communities. So there needs to be knowledge transfer for these generations. And of course, when they get to know about these solar panel issues, they in the future, if they see some information about solar panels maybe being destructed or like some negative viewpoints on these solar panels, they will have their own capacity and their own knowledge that's already have the foundation to see whether this information is true or not. So we don't make them see in one perspective. We just educate how this kind of solar panels are being built and what are the components inside these solar panels. So in the future, when they face these